First contact and ultimatum. The Meridian ships appeared without warning. One moment, Earth's skies were clear. The next, 12 massive vessels hung in low orbit, their obsidian hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. They resembled massive arrowheads, each one over 3 kilometers in length, positioned strategically over major population centers. Panic erupted worldwide. Stock markets crashed. Religious leaders proclaimed the end times. Military forces mobilized, though everyone knew conventional weapons would be useless against visitors who had mastered interstellar travel. Commander Marcus Torres watched the main view screen from the bridge of the International Space Station Alpha. After 20 years in the Space Force, he had prepared for many scenarios, but first contact had always seemed like a distant theoretical exercise. Now it was reality, and humanity's fate hung in the balance. "Anything?" he asked, glancing at his communications officer. Lieutenant Patel shook her head. "Nothing, sir. They're just sitting there." The silence lasted exactly 48 hours. Then, every electronic device on Earth simultaneously broadcast the same message in perfect, unaccented English. "We are the Meridian Collective. Your world has resources we require. You will surrender 60% of your planetary water, 40% of rare Earth minerals, and 30% of biological diversity within 90 Earth days. Compliance will result in our departure. Resistance will result in planetary sterilization. This message will repeat every 6 hours until the deadline." The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session that lasted 3 days. Military options were discussed and dismissed. Diplomatic overtures went unanswered. Scientists calculated that meeting the Meridian demands would trigger ecological collapse within a decade. At NASA's Sino-Linguistic Division, Dr. Eliza Chen worked without sleep, analyzing the Meridian transmission patterns. As Earth's foremost expert in theoretical alien communication, she had spent her career preparing for this moment. "It doesn't make sense," she muttered, staring at the waveform patterns on her screen. "Their language structure is too perfect." Dr. Chen's lab assistant, Jae Kim, handed her another cup of coffee. "What do you mean?" "Natural languages evolve. They have irregularities, exceptions, variations. This doesn't." She gestured at the screen. "It's like they're using a mathematical language, not a biological one." On day 12, Commander Torres received unexpected orders. "Report to NASA headquarters immediately." He found himself in a secure underground facility, facing a table of grim officials and one disheveled scientist. "Commander Torres," the Secretary General nodded. "This is Dr. Eliza Chen. She has a theory we need you to evaluate." Dr. Chen didn't waste time on pleasantries. "The Meridians aren't speaking to us. They're programming us." Torres blinked. "I don't follow. Their communication system isn't just language. It's their technology. Their ships, their weapons, their entire infrastructure operates on a linguistic mathematical framework we call quantum semiotics." Chen pushed her glasses up her nose. "Every message they send contains embedded commands that reinforce their technological systems." "And this helps us how?" Torres asked. Chen smiled for the first time. "Because it means we can talk back. Not just with words, but with code that can affect their systems. We can hack them through language." Thus began Project Echo, a desperate collaboration between linguists, mathematicians, and computer scientists. While political leaders debated surrender terms, Dr. Chen's team worked to develop a semantic countermeasure, a message that could disrupt Meridian technology. The work was exhausting and progress was slow. Every simulation ended in failure. With each passing day, global panic increased. Water riots broke out in major cities. Doomsday cults gained thousands of followers. Military forces worldwide remained at maximum readiness, despite knowing their weapons would be useless. Torres found Dr. Chen asleep at her desk on day 39, surrounded by crumpled papers and empty coffee cups. He gently shook her awake. "You need to rest properly," he said. "You're no good to Earth if you collapse." She blinked up at him, dark circles under her eyes. We're missing something fundamental. Their language is too orderly, too perfect. No evolved species would develop communication like this. Maybe they engineered it that way, Torres suggested. Created a perfect language for their technology. Chen's eyes widened. Or maybe. She jumped up and rushed to her computer. What if they didn't create the language? What if they're using someone else's? Working with renewed energy, Chen analyzed the meridian transmissions against ancient Earth languages. Nothing matched. Then she had another insight. What if the pattern wasn't in the words, but in the rhythm of communication? On day 65, as governments worldwide finalized surrender protocols, Chen burst into the command center. "It's music," she announced breathlessly. "Their language operates on harmonic principles similar to music. They're not just sending words. They're sending frequencies that maintain their technological integration." Torres and his team looked skeptical. "You're saying we can defeat an advanced alien armada with, what, a bad soundtrack?" "No," Chen grinned. "I'm saying we can create audio feedback. Their systems use perfect harmonics. But if we introduce dissonance, specifically, patterns the human brains are uniquely adapted to process, but their systems can't resolve, we might disrupt their network long enough to gain an advantage." Project Echo shifted focus. Musicians joined the team. They studied how human brains processed polyrhythms, dissonant chords, and complex improvisational patterns, elements that appeared chaotic but contained deep structure recognizable to human cognition. The plan was both elegant and desperate. Broadcast a carefully constructed sonic pattern worldwide, one that would create cascading disruptions throughout the Meridian command system. In theory, it would create a temporary window where their ships would be vulnerable to conventional attacks. As Day 87 dawned, the United Nations held its final vote. Despite Project Echo's potential, the risks were too great. Official surrender would be announced the next day. That night, Torres found Chen on the facility's roof, staring up at the stars, and the dark shapes of Meridian ships visible against the night sky. "You still believe we can win this, don't you?" he asked. "I believe we have to try," she replied. "The Meridians move through the galaxy like a virus, consuming resources and moving on. If we surrender, Earth dies slowly instead of quickly. That's not a choice." Torres was silent for a long moment. "What would you need to implement Echo without official authorization?" Chen turned to him, eyes wide. "Are you suggesting?" "I'm not suggesting anything, Doctor. I'm asking a hypothetical question." She hesitated, then answered. "Access to the global satellite network, and about 6 hours without interruption." Torres nodded slowly. "Hypothetically, I might be able to arrange that." As dawn broke on Day 88, Dr. Chen and a small team of loyal scientists gathered in a secure communication bunker. Commander Torres had arranged an emergency maintenance protocol that gave them temporary control of Earth's major communication satellites. "This is either going to save humanity or get us court-martialed," Torres said grimly. "Possibly both." Chen didn't look up from her console. "If we fail, there won't be courts left to marshal anyone." The dissonance pattern, a complex blend of mathematical sequences expressed through sound, was ready. Once broadcast, it would be transmitted by every electronic device on Earth, creating a global wave of precisely calibrated noise. "On my mark," Chen said, her finger hovering over the activation key. She met Torres's eyes one last time. "For Earth." He nodded. "For Earth." She pressed the key. At first, nothing happened. Then, across the planet, electronic devices emitted a strange, multilayered sound, not unpleasant, but unsettling, like several beautiful songs playing simultaneously in clashing keys. For 30 seconds they waited, watching the monitors tracking the Meridian ships. "Nothing's happening," Torres said, his hope fading. Then Lieutenant Patel called out, "Energy fluctuations detected in Meridian Vessel 3." On the screens, One of the massive ships over Shanghai began to drift slightly from its perfect position. Then another over Mexico City showed similar movement. "It's working," Chen whispered. "Their integration is destabilizing." Torres didn't waste the opportunity. He grabbed a secure line to Space Force Command. "This is Commander Torres. Initiate Operation Spear now." "I repeat, Operation Spear is a go." Worldwide, previously positioned missile systems targeted the Meridian ships. Not with nuclear warheads, those had been deemed ineffective in simulations, but with specially designed electromagnetic pulse weapons that would exploit the temporary vulnerability in Meridian defenses. As the last seconds of the 90-day ultimatum ticked away, humanity launched its answer. The human response. The Meridian ships had begun to move. After nearly 3 months of perfect stillness, their sudden acceleration sent shockwaves of terror across Earth. The ultimatum had expired, and the alien armada was positioning for what everyone assumed would be the opening salvo of planetary sterilization. In the command bunker, Commander Torres watched with grim determination as the 12 obsidian vessels arranged themselves into an attack formation. According to Meridian transmissions, which now came at increased frequency, resistance was being processed as non-compliance. "We've miscalculated," Torres muttered, watching the orbital tracking display. The dissonance pattern affected them, but not enough. Dr. Chen shook her head, eyes fixed on her data screens. "No, it's working exactly as theorized. Look at the harmonic resonance patterns. They're degrading. The meridians are compensating manually." "Manual compensation won't help if they vaporize our cities in the next 5 minutes," Torres countered. The first EMP missiles reached their targets. Designed to exploit the dissonance-created vulnerabilities, they detonated in carefully calculated patterns around each Meridian vessel. On screen, energy cascades rippled across the alien ship's surfaces. 3 Meridian vessels showing significant power fluctuations, reported Lieutenant Pottle. "Vessels 7 and 9 have stopped moving entirely." For the first time in 3 months, hope flickered in the command center. But it was short-lived. The largest Meridian ship, positioned over the Atlantic Ocean, suddenly emitted a pulse of energy that disabled the nearest 3 EMP platforms. A moment later, a focused beam struck Rio de Janeiro. On monitors, a section of the city simply ceased to exist, replaced by a smoking crater. "They're adapting," Chen said, fingers flying across her keyboard. "The primary harmonic disruption isn't maintaining cohesion. We need to escalate the pattern complexity." Torres gestured to his communications team. "All global defense systems, continue bombardment. Focus on the disabled vessels first." Chen's team worked frantically to modify the dissonance pattern. The original design had exploited a vulnerability in how Meridian systems processed certain frequency combinations. Now they needed something more powerful, something that would create cascading failures throughout the alien network. "What about cognitive dissonance?" suggested Kim, Chen's assistant. "Not just sound patterns, but conceptual contradictions embedded in the transmission." Chen's eyes lit up. "Linguistic paradoxes. Human minds can hold contradictory concepts simultaneously. It's fundamental to our creativity, our art, our humor. If their systems are as rigidly logical as we believe." They quickly began restructuring the transmission, embedding Zen cones, quantum mechanical paradoxes, and logical impossibilities into the harmonic pattern. The result was a transmission that contained fundamental contradictions at multiple levels: mathematical, linguistic, and conceptual. Outside, the battle for Earth continued. 2 more cities had been struck, Shanghai and Cairo, though with decreasing effectiveness as the Meridian targeting systems degraded. 7 of the 12 alien vessels now showed significant impairment, drifting from their strategic positions. "We're ready," Chen announced, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. Torres nodded. "Broadcast on all frequencies." The enhanced dissonance pattern flooded Earth's communication systems. This time, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The Meridian vessels shuddered visibly in orbit. Energy discharges erupted across their hulls as internal systems fought to resolve the irresolvable contradictions. "It's working," Kim shouted, pointing to the monitors. "Their network is collapsing." 3 of the Meridian ships simply shut down, going completely dark as they drifted in orbit. 4 others showed erratic movement, firing weapon systems randomly into space. The remaining 5, including the command vessel, began to withdraw, accelerating away from Earth. But the Meridian commander had one final message, broadcast worldwide. "Humans, your response, unexpected, unprecedented. No species has contradicted a harmony before. We will recalculate." Taurus and Chen exchanged looks of cautious optimism. "They're retreating," Taurus said softly. "For now," Chen nodded. "But they'll be back, eventually, with adaptations." The following weeks were a blur of activity. The disabled Meridian vessels were approached cautiously by international space forces. Inside, they found no biological entities, only complex networks of crystalline structures that seemed to function as both computer systems and physical infrastructure. The Meridians weren't organic life forms, but advanced artificial intelligence, created by a long-vanished species to gather resources. Dr. Chen's analysis confirmed her theory. The Meridian language was actually an operating system that maintained their collective consciousness by introducing paradoxes and contradictions, concepts that evolved biological minds could process, but their rigid systems couldn't. Humanity had found a vulnerability no other species had exploited before. 6 months after the Meridian retreat, Shen and Taurus stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned defense station Aegis, watching Earth rotate peacefully below. "The planetary defense grid is at 90% completion," Taurus reported. "Using reverse-engineered Meridian technology, we've improved our capabilities by approximately 2 centuries. Chen nodded. "And the early warning beacons, deployed throughout the solar system, will have advance notice if they return." Chen's team had made another critical discovery. The Meridians had encountered 17 other civilizations before Earth. 15 had surrendered and been systematically stripped of resources. 2 had fought and been destroyed. Earth was the first to drive them back. "We're not special because of our technology," Chen mused, watching the stars. "We're special because of our minds. Our ability to live with contradiction, to think in metaphors, to create art that makes no logical sense, but still conveys meaning. These are our greatest strengths." Taurus smiled slightly. "You're saying humanity's secret weapon is that we don't make sense." "Precisely." Chen laughed. "To a perfectly logical system, human thinking must seem like madness, but it's a madness that contains brilliant adaptability." The Meridian encounter changed Earth profoundly. International cooperation, once a diplomatic ideal, became a practical necessity. Resources previously devoted to fighting each other were redirected toward planetary defense and space exploration. Within a decade, human outposts existed throughout the solar system. More importantly, Earth had announced its presence to the galaxy. Other non-Meridian species, previously unaware of humanity, began making cautious contact. Some came seeking alliance against the Meridian threat. Others came with knowledge to trade. Earth was no longer alone, and no longer defenseless. In a secure facility beneath the Aegis station, a special team continued to study Meridian technology, developing new applications for quantum semiotics. They created a hybrid language that combined human creative processes with Meridian precision, a system that could potentially communicate with and influence any technology they might encounter in the future. They called it Project Babel, and it became humanity's passport to the stars. On the anniversary of the Meridian retreat, a simple monument was erected in the United Nations Plaza. It bore a single inscription in multiple Earth languages and the angular script of the Meridians. "They came demanding our surrender." Earth answered back. "The end,"